So welcome to Jumbo IS and welcome to our lecture series called Daily News in Shorts. In this lecture series, we cover a particular day's current affairs in a short span of time. Now, the idea is that you get to cover your current affairs on a daily basis. You don't have to read the entire newspaper, just follow this lecture series. But watching this lecture would be job half done because just after watching it, you need to revise it as well. And you can revise these current affairs from the notes provided by us on our Telegram channel. The link to our Telegram channel is provided in the comment section below this lecture. Okay? But please do not forget to revise this lecture because, well, that's the only way you're going to remember these current affairs for longer periods of time. Okay? At least till your exam. Otherwise, you'll quickly forget them. So please do not forget to revise. Okay? And we shall begin today's lecture, today's discussion. But first, let's take a look at the list of topics that we shall cover today. Okay? So let's start. So daily current affairs, 12th August, Tuesday, and here is the list of topics that we are going to cover today. So number one on this list is Trump to shut down OCOs. Well, OCOs is a satellite program of NASA. Okay, the full form is Orbiting Carbon Observatories. Okay, these are satellites that observe and monitor the accumulation of carbon in our atmosphere, which is causing global warming. Okay. Trump has decided to shut down this program. That is why many people are not happy with this, okay? Especially those who are serious about humanity's fight against climate change. So we'll talk about this issue. Then, CBSE has recently proposed to conduct open book examinations. These are those types of examinations in which students carry books with them and they can open these books in the exam, okay? Now, what are the advantages of open book examinations? Why should they be implemented? And what are the challenges in front of their implementation? We shall talk about this. Okay, advantages, disadvantages, both. Then, well, this is a very important global event. Okay, Trump-Putin meet in Alaska. Now, when this meeting will happen, we will get further details about this meeting. Okay, so we shall come to this topic again. Today, I included this topic because I wanted to talk about Alaska. Like you all know, map-based questions, geographical location-based questions are quite frequent in prelims examination, right? We all know about this. Now, these map-based questions are from those locations which were mentioned in the news. So these days, Alaska is pretty popular and it is quite frequently used in the news, okay, mentioned in the news. Therefore, we need to know about the geographical location of Alaska and its history, brief history. Okay, so we'll talk about Alaska more importantly. But the Trump-Putin meeting will be talked about when they will actually meet. Okay, and in the end, we'll talk about a news which is related to climate change. Basically, because of global warming, glaciers are melting. Now, there is a glacier in Argentina which was considered to be stable. Okay, it didn't melt even though global warming was there, but it has started to melt. Okay, so Perito Moreno Glacier. So we have to talk about this. Clear? So these are the four topics that we shall zero in our attention on. Let's start discussing them one by one, starting with topic number one, and that is Trump to shut down OCOs. Okay, now you see the thing is that global warming is a problem, right? And global warming is caused by accumulation of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. The amount of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere, well, that amount is increasing. And because of that, well, global warming is happening. And because of global warming, there are so many climate-related disasters that are occurring on a day-to-day basis. Plus, humanity's survival is on the line, right? Therefore, we need to fight against global warming. And the best way to fight against global warming is reduce carbon emissions, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, right? But to fight against climate change, to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, we need to first know how much greenhouse gas is there in the atmosphere. So for policymakers to better plan climate-related policies, for politicians, for bureaucrats to better plan climate-related policies, they need to be made aware of the concentration of greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. And for that reason, many scientific studies, many scientific explorations were done to calculate the amount of carbon dioxide. Okay, one such project was NASA's OCO program. Okay, OCO stands for orbiting carbon observatories. Okay, orbiting means these are satellites. Clear? And these satellites will calculate the amount of carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases that are accumulating in the atmosphere. Okay. Now, this program of NASA, basically the first satellite in this series, in this program, was launched around 2009. Okay. Now, this has been yielding results. Many observations were made, and it informed policymakers of the world to plan their climate-related policies. Okay, NASA was basically conducting this program. But recently, Donald Trump has decided or asked NASA to shut down this program. And how is Donald Trump asking NASA to shut down this program? Well, NASA's budget comes from US government. Donald Trump is telling them to reduce their spending, to cancel this budget for OCO program. And because of this, NASA is shutting down OCO program. Now, this is a very significant program. It was a very popular program. Plus, it gave a lot of results. A lot of information was released because of the measurements made by these satellites. Now, all of this is going to go away. Okay? All because Donald Trump says that I don't have the money for it. Clear? Now, our focus of attention in this news would be, what are these satellites? Okay? What are these orbiting carbon observatories? And what were the advantages of these satellites? Okay, what was the importance of this program? So basically, we'll be talking about two things: about OCOs, OCO satellites, and advantages of OCO satellites. Clear? And the consequences of shutting down this program. Well, I won't discuss that. It is pretty evident. You know this, right? If this program shuts down, well, our measurement of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is also going to get shut down. So this would basically reduce the amount of knowledge humanity has in its fight against climate change. Clear? Okay, let's straight away jump into the topic. Okay, so Trump to shut down OCOs. Like I said, Donald Trump has said that I have budget constraints. I won't sanction the budget for NASA. Okay, so this OCO stands for orbiting. Orbiting means they orbit around the Earth. That means they are satellites, right? Carbon observatories. Please don't mind my handwriting, okay? My main aim is to make you understand. If you don't like my handwriting, I'm so sorry about it. Nonetheless, so orbiting carbon observatories. Now, about these orbiting carbon observatories, by the way, yes, this program was that of NASA, Space Agency of USA. Now, about these OCOs, okay, so basically the first satellite that was launched under this program was OCO-1, but its launch failed. There was a crash, so this couldn't be launched, okay. Then to replace this satellite, well, OCO-2 was launched. Clear? Now, this was successful. OCO-2 was put in sun-synchronous polar orbit. Okay. Now, the significance of polar orbit is that this satellite revolves around the Earth, right? Now, if this satellite at 2 p.m. is over Delhi, okay, and at 4 p.m., okay, this satellite is revolving around the Earth, okay, at 2 p.m. it is directly above New Delhi, at 4 p.m. it is directly above, let's say, Sydney, right? Then that shall be the case forever. Every day at 2 p.m. it will be above Delhi, every day at 4 p.m. it will be above Sydney. Clear? That's the significance of polar sun-synchronous orbit. This is one such orbit in which if a satellite is revolving in this path, okay, it will basically come to the same point on Earth at the same time every day. Okay, this orbit is generally 800 to 1000 kilometers above the Earth. So OCO-2 was put in this orbit. Clear? Then later another satellite was launched, OCO-3, right? Now this OCO-3 satellite was put in near Earth orbit. Basically, this OCO-3 satellite was sent to International Space Station. Now, International Space Station lies in Well, near Earth orbit, round about 400 kilometers above Earth, near Earth orbit. So this satellite was attached to International Space Station, and along with International Space Station, it is making observations. Clear? So these two satellites collectively were providing us with the data of the amount of carbon dioxide or other greenhouse gases accumulating in the atmosphere. Okay? Make sense? They were collectively providing this data. Make sense? Okay? Just remember, OCO, one in sun synchronous orbit, polar orbit, the other in near Earth orbit. Clear? Together, well, these satellites were providing us with data. Now, there are two types of satellites. Remember this, I'm giving you some extra information. Okay? More or less, there are two types of satellites. Communication satellites. These are used for communication on Earth only. Okay? The other is Earth observation satellite. Okay, which are also called remote sensing satellite. So remote sensing Earth observation satellites, their main job is to observe the Earth. For communication satellites, their main job is to provide communication infrastructure for communication on Earth. Clear? Now naturally, their job was to observe the atmosphere. That is why these two satellites were remote sensing or Earth observation satellites. So remember this fact also. Now the question is, what role were they performing? What was the significance of these two satellites under the OCO program? What kind of data they were providing? Okay, how did they improve our understanding of global warming? Clear? So let's talk about the importance. First of all, before these satellites, when scientists had to measure the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, they used to measure that with sensors placed at different locations on Earth. But these sensors used to give us a localized picture. A pan-Earth, pan-world picture was not available, right? These sensors were localized, so they used to give us a localized picture. Make sense? But with satellites, you get a full picture of the entire Earth. So with the launch of OCO satellites, well, we were able to get the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere at pan-Earth level. Okay? So gone were the days when you had to rely on sensors for localized carbon dioxide accumulation. So this is advantage number one. It helped in monitoring of the planet entirely. Make sense? Second, well, the observations that were made by these satellites, they were published in scientific journals, and they improved our understanding also of environment. How so? I'll give you one example. You see, generally it was thought and it was generally said, you will study about this in geography lectures as well. Amazon rainforests were called the lungs of the earth. Okay, Amazon forests were called the lungs of the earth. Why? Well, what do we do basically? Okay, our lungs, what do they do? They basically take, these lungs, they allow us to respire, they allow us to perform respiration, right? Now, the reason why Amazon rainforests were called lungs of the earth was because they provided the atmosphere with the much needed oxygen. How so? Well, you all know plants perform photosynthesis. Under photosynthesis, what do? Well, plants take in carbon dioxide and release oxygen into the atmosphere. So these forests were one of the biggest source of carbon sink. They used to absorb carbon from the atmosphere. Okay, and they release oxygen in the atmosphere. The air we breathe contains oxygen. It's because of plants only, right? So they were considered to be one of the biggest carbon sinks. But as per the observations of OCO, it was found that Amazon alone is not the biggest carbon sink or carbon absorber. They said that, or the data said that taiga forests near the Arctic region in the upper latitudes of Eurasia, Europe and Asia, taiga forests, they absorb considerable amounts of carbon, okay, which can be matched or almost equivalent to Amazon. So taiga forests are very important. They should also be called lungs of the earth. That we got to know because of OCO. Plus, Well, we also got to know that generally forests are carbon absorbers. But OCO satellites basically told us that if there is excessive deforestation or drought, these forests can also become carbon emitters. So we need to protect forests, because if deforestation starts to accelerate, these forests alone would become net carbon emitters. So this is an important piece of information that policymakers can use to make policies, right? Ministry of Environment in India can use to make forest policy. Make sense? Plus, it's not just carbon dioxide. Well, basically, OCO satellites observation was so sharp that it was used to monitor crop health as well. So it had many agricultural applications as well. Clear? But now this program is about to get shut. Now we don't know what will happen. Maybe other countries have to pitch in. India, which has an advanced space program, China, Japan, Europe, they have to launch their own OCOs because USA has backed out. Clear? So this is the thing. All right. Now let's shift our focus to another news item, and that is a very important news item, and that is CBSE's open book examination. Now, CBSE has recently decided that they are going to conduct open book examinations from class 9th. Okay? In this year, next year, from next year, 2026-27 calendar year. Okay? Now, the thing is, open book examinations have been experimented with by CBSE before also, but that was not successful. By making a few changes, CBSE is conducting this experiment again. Because we all know that open book examinations are better form of testing students. It is a better form of testing students. Okay? Because the kind of examinations we have right now, it basically incentivizes rote learning. Okay? Students mostly focus on memorization without understanding. Many students don't even understand the subjects, yet they memorize everything and they just vomit it out in the examination hall. Okay? And that is not a good form of education. That these students, when they'll grow up to become adults in life, well, they won't have basic understanding. Okay? Or that education would be useless to them because they focus more on memorization rather than understanding key concepts. That is why open book examinations are being experimented with. Successful experiments have been conducted in many parts of the world, in South Korea, Japan, okay, USA, many parts of the world, Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden and all. So we also want that our students shouldn't focus on rote learning, they should focus more on understanding. Plus, we also want to reduce this examination pressure on students. They are pressurized to do this rote learning, okay? And they fear examinations, board examinations. These open book examinations can reduce anxiety, fear of examination also, right? So it is a win-win situation. That is why CBSE has decided from next year we are going to start with open book examinations from class 9. Now, open book examinations have a lot of advantages. We will discuss that. But their implementation in India is not that easy. There are many difficulties which have to be solved first before this open book examination can be implemented properly. We need to solve all the other problems, then only this experiment can be implemented successfully. So we will talk about advantages of open book examinations because question can be asked in prelims as well as in mains. So please pay close attention, okay? And we'll also talk about challenges in its implementation. Make sense? So let's start. CBSE's open book examination. So what was in the news? So Central Board of Secondary Education has decided to introduce open book assessments for students of class 9 from 2026-27. Okay? What is the purpose? To shift the focus from rote learning, memorization, focus on memorization rather than understanding, to analytical thinking, real world application, echoing the goals of National Education Policy. So these goals were mentioned in National Education Policy. And these goals were also mentioned in National Curriculum Framework. That the curriculum should be designed in such a way that students focus more on analyzing the information, understanding the information rather than memorizing it. Blind memorization should be discouraged. Understanding should be encouraged. So National Curriculum Framework for School Education and National Education Policy both had these goals. And OBEs can help us implement these goals. Okay. The present proposal aims to integrate it as part of 3 pen paper assessments per term. So currently CBSE is saying that from class 9 onwards, for every subject, okay, there should be 3 tests in the entire term. And these tests would be pen paper. So questions would be asked, you will have to write answers. 3 pen paper assessments per term covering core subjects like language, mathematics, science and social sciences, almost everything that we study in schools. Okay, so this 3 pen paper assessment per term, these assessments, these exams, these tests shall be open book based. Now, what are open book based examinations? Okay, if some of you are confused, well, the questions in the exam would be framed in such a way that it doesn't matter if the book is open in front of you. Okay, the question would be such that the question would be like that they would ask you to use that information to give your critical opinion. So you have all the dates of history, but the question won't be like, when did Babur invade India? No, the question would be, why did Babur invade India? Write your opinion. So you can open your book and check when did Babur invade India, okay, and what were the circumstances of India, and then write your own opinion. That would be the way questions would be framed. Clear? That's what open book examinations are. Now these examinations, well, they have a lot of benefit. Okay. Now, first of all, CBSE has made it clear, because these examinations, well, schools are not yet ready to implement this system, because for that they need to have all the support. So CBSE is going to provide them with the support. First of all, CBSE is going to provide these schools with sample papers and other reading material, so that to guide schools as to how to frame these tests. Okay, transition support will be provided from CBSE. Plus, there are many schools in India which are not ready for these types of examinations. So CBSE has made it optional for schools. Clear? Till the time they are ready. Once every school is ready, well, then it would be made mandatory. Okay? Now, what are the benefits of this? Benefits of open book examinations. Okay, so deeper understanding and conceptual learning is one such benefit. Critical thinking, because you are not focused on memorization and the questions would basically force you to think critically. Problem solving, real world relevance. This would have real world relevance, because once you're out of school, all the information that you memorized is now available on Google. Anytime you are in any real world like situation, you have all the information on ChatGPT, on Google. How you use that information is important. So that you learn in school through these open book based examinations. Okay, information would be there. How do you use it? That would be taught through these open book examinations. So it will prepare you better for real world relevance. Okay, and yes, reduce stress and anxiety, that is there. Now, what are the challenges in its implementation? This is important, because this thing was experimented with by CBSE in 2014. It was called open text based assessment, but this experiment failed and CBSE had to cancel it by 2017-18. Okay, why did it fail? Well, these open book examinations were conducted and many students failed these examinations. Okay, many students failed these examinations. And why? Because students were not properly trained as to how to use these books, how to gather this information, assimilate this information, think about this information, and then write an answer. Students were not trained in that practice. So they had books open in front of them, but they didn't know how to use them. This has to be taught to them by the teachers. So this form of examination cannot be implemented properly without adequate teachers training. And teachers training in India is a big question mark. Okay, there are some schools which have very high quality teachers, but there are many schools in India which have very low quality teachers. Without this, you can't do this. Okay, Plus, there are many students, many schools, especially in rural India, that lack basic resources to train teachers, to train students. They don't have good libraries, they don't have good material to help students with this open book examination. Okay, so lack of resources. Plus, well, open book examination experiment can only be conducted properly if prior reforms are conducted. What are these prior reforms? You need to first change the curriculum. Change the curriculum. Okay, change the books. Books shouldn't be full of text based information or rote learning based information, memorization based facts, trivia facts. Books should also be changed so that students are more focused on thinking. Books have to be changed, curriculum has to be changed. Only then OBEs can be implemented. So prior reforms are required. So these are the challenges. Use these points in your mains answers. Okay. And now we'll quickly shift our focus to third news item, and that is Trump-Putin meet in Alaska. Okay. Now, well, the significance of this meeting, obviously you know this, that Trump and Putin are meeting so as to find a solution for Russia-Ukraine war, right? Trump is persuading Russia to stop this war. Russia is saying Ukraine should stop this war. And what should be the outcome of this war? Whatever territory Russia has captured so far, can Russia get this? Or does it has to hand, or should it hand it over to Ukraine? What will be the peace deal? Okay, for all these things they are meeting. Now, that is the situation right now. Now, the meeting hasn't happened yet. So we will come back to this issue again when this meeting will occur. The reason why I included this topic today was to discuss about Alaska, like I said before. Well, location-based questions, maps-based questions are important, right? So we need to talk about them. Otherwise, well, you won't be able to answer those questions in prelims, okay? That is why I have included this topic, Alaska. So this news item is only going to focus on Alaska, okay? So let's quickly talk about this. So Trump-Putin meet in Alaska. Let's talk about Alaska. So as you can see, this is United States, this is Canada, and this is Alaska. And Alaska is the closest territory to Russia. Okay? Alaska is the northernmost territory of USA. It is basically the westernmost territory of USA. Make sense? And there is a small water channel that separates US territory, that is Alaska, from Russia, and that is known as Bering Strait. Alaska lies in the Arctic region also. Clear? There are some other facts that you need to know about Alaska. So Alaska is the largest state of United States by area. So it is the largest state. It is the richest state in United States when it comes to natural resources, oil and natural gas. Okay? And one more important fact. Alaska at one point of time was not a part of US territory. Alaska was part of Russian territory. Okay, so at one point of time, Alaska was part of Russia, but United States purchased Alaska from Russia. So by paying money, they purchased Alaska from Russia. This deal happened in 1867. So this piece of land was purchased by USA, but it was just purchased. It was not incorporated into American territory. Okay. It was just a piece of land that America owns, but it was not considered part of American territory. No elections used to happen in Alaska. But then eventually, in 1912, it was made part of American territory. And then in 1959, Alaska was made the 49th state of USA. So it was made a full-fledged state. It was given statehood in 1959. Clear? The United States basically has 50 states. Okay, so the 50th state was Hawaii. Okay, And both Alaska and Hawaii are considered to be non-contiguous territories of USA. That means they're not joined with USA. USA is here, Alaska is here, Hawaii is somewhere here. Right? So these are non-contiguous. So these are the facts that you need to know about Alaska. Rest, some other facts are also mentioned in your notes, so go through that as well. Clear? And now we'll talk about the last news item, and that is, well, Perito Moreno Glacier. Now, Perito Moreno Glacier is in Argentina, and it is a very big glacier. The entire glacier is the size of Patna, Bihar, right? The entire city of Patna in Bihar, the glacier is that big. It's a huge block of ice, okay? Now, this glacier was considered to be stable. Even though many glaciers in the world are melting at a very fast pace, Perito Moreno Glacier, well, it was considered to be stable. It was not melting that fast. Clear? But in the past 5 years, it has also started to melt rapidly. And that is a dangerous situation. Clear? Now, why is fast or rapid melting of glaciers problematic? Well, we'll talk about this. First, let's talk about Perito Moreno glaciers. Okay? So, Perito Moreno glaciers. Clear? Now, this is how the glacier looks, and the thing is, this glacier is found in Argentina. Okay, let's take a look at the map of Argentina. So this is Argentina and this is Perito Moreno Glacier, and it is part of Los Glaciers National Park. Los Glaciers National Park. Perito Moreno Glacier is part of this national park. We all know about national parks. And remember this, well, Los Glaciers National Park is part of UN World Heritage List, or it is a World Heritage Site. Clear? So Los Glaciers National Park is UN World Heritage Site, and this is Perito Moreno Glacier. Clear? Now, this glacier is a major tourist attraction. Why? Because, well, there is a phenomena that is seen in glaciers, and that is known as ice calving. Okay, most of the times a block of ice gets separated, like someone has cut it with knife, and it drops into the ocean or the sea or in the lake. Okay, this is known as ice calving. Now, whenever this happens in this glacier, it makes a huge sound, and it is basically huge thunderous sound. So many people come here to see that. So remember this term ice calving. It is a natural process that happens in glaciers. Clear? And this ice calving phenomena has been happening to this particular glacier in Argentina since 1917. Okay? So many tourists come to this place for this reason only. But in recent times, in the last 5 years, these ice calving events have increased in frequency and intensity also, because now bigger blocks of ice are getting separated. And many people are saying that this glacier has started to retreat. That means most of it is melting, and that is why these big blocks of ice are dropping, okay, and becoming icebergs. So it is retreating quite fast. Clear? This glacier was generally considered to be one of the most stable glaciers, but now it is also melting. So it has also now become a part of this long list of glaciers that are melting fast. And this is a problematic situation. Okay. Now, why is glacier melting a problematic situation? Well, you all know, if most glaciers are going to melt, well, glaciers are a source of fresh water for many people. Gangotri Glacier, Yamunotri Glacier, for people in North India, well, these glaciers are a source of fresh water for these people. Similarly, this glacier in Argentina is the largest source of fresh water. If all of this is going to melt, there is going to be freshwater crisis in the world. Plus, if all these glaciers are going to melt, global sea level is also going to rise, causing catastrophic disasters, natural disasters. Clear? And many other environmental catastrophes are going to occur if all these glaciers start to melt. Clear? Most of these are mentioned in your notes also. So do check that out. But let's gather some more information about this glacier. Okay, so few facts about this glacier. So it's part of Los Glaciers National Park. This glacier was formed in the last ice age, that was 18,000 years ago. Ice carving, we have discussed, has been happening since 1917, and this carving has accelerated in the last 5 years. These are some of the facts, key facts that you have to remember. And also remember, because this is important for your mains answer, why is glacier melting a problem? Okay, environmental problem. Do check that out from the notes. And on that note, I will be signing off. I will conclude this lecture. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, guys. And I hope it has added value to your preparation. But it will add more value if you follow what I said in the beginning. Revise this lecture from the notes on our Telegram channel. Please do not forget to do that. Otherwise, you'll forget these current affairs. Okay? Alright. On that note, I'll be signing off with the promise of seeing you again with another set of news items. Thank you, everyone.